Society Matters.
Hello, and thank you for joining me. I'm Bernie Furshpan, host of Ordinary Heroes here on hmTV at the Holocaust Memorial and Tolerance Center here on Long Island. I have a very special guest here with me today, somebody who I recently met. I had no idea how influential, powerful person in the Oceanside area here on Long Island, very much affiliated with the museum here. Mitchell Bickman, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
I understand that you've been friends with Donna Rosenblum and you've worked with her in the past.
For many years, we've had a close relationship, both with Donna, hmTV, and the Oceanside School District.
Right. So when I told her I'm doing a podcast with you, she said, whoa, wait a second. She says, I'm supposed to do the podcast. I said, but I got him first. So
Yes.
So I'm sure she's going to address that. And
I'm sure I'll be back at a later date to speak with her as well.
Absolutely. And you're a powerhouse in Oceanside. You're considered the social studies superstar, right?
I wouldn't label myself that, but I have won some past awards for the work I've done in this role.
That's great. So how long have you been teaching social studies?
So this is my 23rd year in education. I taught in the Oceanside School District for my first 10 years, and then I moved into administration where I'm currently the director of social studies K-12 in the school district.
So there's a sense of urgency. I get it, because when I talk about things that are happening today and the parallels with what happened many years ago, it seems that history keeps repeating itself. And so that's why we teach social studies, so that we learn what happened in the past and the lessons that we can extract from them. In an age of, let's say, misinformation and disinformation and polarization, why are historical thinking skills like sourcing, corroboration, and perspective essential survival tools today?
Yeah. So great question. When we look at the portrait of a graduate, of what our students should graduate nationwide, but I'll speak specifically towards Oceanside, we need to foster a skill set within students that will help them navigate their world. So some of the historical thinking skills you talked about, sourcing, perspective taking, corroboration, are the same skills students will need to really make sense of all that information that are out there in the world today. And one of the things that I think is, one skill that you didn't mention, I would say, is lateral reading too. As soon as they hear something about a source, immediately go off of the source they're reading about and check another source and see what they're saying about it. And collectively, this skill set will help our students be more informed citizens.
I think that's part of the overall umbrella of media literacy.
Yes.
And that's such an important skill set. Today, many people who think that social media is a news resource. It is not.
Yes.
The first thing they see, they believe. Why is that? I mean, even adults who are educated with social studies still react immediately to what they see online.
Yeah, so I can say anecdotally, most of our students do get their news through social media sources. Many adults do as well, as you just mentioned. And if that's their reality, then how do we cut through the noise and really help them to understand what they're looking at.
Right.
Understanding what algorithms look like, understanding sponsored content. It's an entire, almost like a foreign language that they have to be educated on to understand how information is both received, how it can be manipulated, and it is one of the most important curriculums we've integrated into instruction today.
Do you think that there are some good sources on social media? I mean, are there legit sources that people eventually will have to depend on because they don't want to go outside of social media?
Yeah, as a blanket statement, all of social media is not necessarily bad, but it's really, if you drill down or you're zooming into it, how can you view social media with a lens that you just talked about earlier? Like, you're not just accepting everything you see or believing it to be accurate or true. And if students can view social media like that, there's some good things on there, right? Exposure to maybe topics or information or news that they might have not otherwise have seen. So then it's our job to say, all right, how do we help you understand what you are viewing?
Okay, so this is the reality.
Yes.
Like you're saying, right? Let's make the best of it. Let's see what we can extract from it and know what's true and not true, right? Be able to tell the difference between the two. So what's the most important or most effective ways to make Holocaust education? And I know that's part of the curriculum here in New York State. It's a required curriculum. You probably spend a little bit more time in Oceanside, I believe, on Holocaust education. But what are some effective ways to make Holocaust education resonate with today's students without it feeling abstract or long ago?
Sure. Yeah. So I think when we're studying the Holocaust, it's important to remember the names and not just the numbers, because when you hear the numbers, the enormity of that is really hard to process. So when we're studying Holocaust education, perhaps even other genocides, but we'll focus specifically on the Holocaust, we need to ensure that there is an emotional connection to the content students are learning. And when they start hearing stories and when they start understanding that these are people who have, in some cases, many of the children, that we'll be learning about, had lives prior to the Holocaust very similar to their own, and it was just ripped away from them. Once they start seeing that, they start taking something from the abstract and making it more concrete and understanding some of the realities when these emotional connections and fostering empathy along the way can be really a main area of our focus.
Yes, I find that fostering empathy is a key, right? People have to understand that we're all related and understand that people's situations and circumstances are different than ours. And if we listen to them, I think today people are yelling over each other. Nobody's listening anymore, right? That's a skill set that people forgot.
I would agree. I think a lot of our communication today is unfortunately fleeting and inconsequential. Like, we're not present a lot of times when we're having conversations, or even when we're in a room with loved ones.
Right.
Sometimes it's just so important to put your devices down. And I have to say, as just an aside, the cell phone ban that New York State enacted this year definitely allowed our students to be more present while they're in the classroom, which has been an amazing outcome of that.
Right. How do you use that to confront modern anti-Semitism, hatred, and teaching tolerance?
Yeah. So I think education is the antidote to hate. When there is intolerance, fear, it often comes from the unknown. So
It's so true.
Yeah, so that's really where we start. And going back to the empathy piece, I think that is the foundation. Empathy is a skill that correlates to greatest success in life, yet it's also the skill that's taught least often in schools. So it's the foundation of a lot of our learning.
Yes, today there's a spike in anti-Semitism. Since October 7th, it's been pretty significant.
Yes.
Has your school district seen a lot of anti-Semitic crimes?
So I wouldn't say we've seen a lot of anti-Semitic crimes, but we have seen the realities of a rise of anti-Semitism internationally, nationally, and even locally as well. So Oceanside has a very unique curriculum called Human Relations that actually was put into place prior to my time there, a little over 20 years before that, in response to some anti-Semitic incidents that happened in the community, to build a curriculum around understanding and tolerance and really fostering upstanders in the community. And over the past 20 years, it's evolved to be a very comprehensive education, with Holocaust education being at the heart of it.
Your approach emphasizes authentic experiences. Is that true?
That is true.
And what does that look like in practice, and why does it work so well?
Yeah. So it starts with real world connections. We were fortunate enough to host you in the Oceanside School District, right after Yom HaShoah.
Right.
And you told you gave a very powerful testimony about your father's experiences during the Holocaust. And this goes back to your previous question. We were saying, like, how do you make this real? How do you connect with kids? Both during your testimony and even afterwards too, you told the story of, I believe your father was 10 years old at the time, right? And them being just 2 to 3 years older, at this time than your father was when he was really when I guess the Nazis came to his village, started putting that human face on it and started connecting with them. And I think it goes back to real world authentic connections. Can you bring in speakers into the classroom, into the curriculum? Can you connect with real world organizations? Who's the individuals? Who are the people doing this work? We try to do that as often as possible. And in doing that, it takes learning really out of a textbook, out of a dry curriculum, but it takes it into their world, into their lives, into their community, and they find these connections.
A lot of leaders in some legacy organizations are saying that the education Holocaust education really has not made a significant impact. I tend to disagree with that. Just because of what we see in the news. Not everybody is like that. The majority of people are not, anti-Semitic. It's those few that are, getting the oxygen basically from the TV networks and getting coverage. And so I think perhaps it only reinforces in them what they're doing and that they think that it's impactful. But I think education, if we weren't doing it, it would probably be a lot worse, if anything.
Yeah.
So what are your feelings about education mitigating hate and anti-Semitism?
Yeah, I think it's essential. Again, fear, intolerance, prejudice, bigotry comes from the unknown. And I think students have to have exposure from a young age to understanding, maybe not from the youngest ages, the horrors of the Holocaust, but first building curriculum around, belonging at younger grades, and then having a more sophisticated and comprehensive curriculum as kids go through schooling process to understand, these events, what happened. And if it happened once, it can happen again. You and I spoke briefly and in your talk as well, when you spoke on Yom HaShoah, I was listening to what you were sharing about this concept of education and talking about these events. But in the absence of that, I don't want to think of what the alternative is. And this is going back to what you said, the Holocaust wasn't the first genocide, right? We talk about the Armenian massacre, we talk about the Holocaust, and we talk about more recent genocides that were happening as well. And they have to understand the Holocaust is maybe unique in its scope and the enormity of how many people were killed. But, genocide can happen with small acts. And I think that's going back to why it's so important with education that we address these things at a young age.
It's so true. The Holocaust was ended about, and World War II ended about 81 years ago.
Yeah.
But since then, 55 million people approximately were killed in genocide. So we learned nothing. And, there's a lot of lessons to be learned. And apparently we're still repeating. But I think what people are not getting, because hatred becomes normalized sometimes, they're not getting that either being silent about it, looking the other way, or, participating with microaggressive statements to other people. They think it's innocent. They think they have no idea what this could lead to, that words lead to hate, and hate can lead to violence, which can lead to genocide in the wrong hands.
Yeah, and what I would add to that is that sometimes they also feel that this doesn't impact me or this has nothing to do with me. And I'd go back to that famous poem, I think it's Pastor Martin Niemeyer, right? Just talking about all the different groups they came for prior to coming for him, and eventually there was no one left to speak out. So we are a global community. We focus on the concept of global citizenship in New York State schools, and they have to understand that we're in this together. Yeah.
But that's good that it's a global community, because in the world there is hatred everywhere. It's not just anti-Semitism. There's the Uyghurs in China. There's the Christians in the Sudan.
Yes,
it's pervasive.
It is. Yeah.
And so it's not just local here. I mean, we're focused on our issues today, but we live on a tiny little planet.
Yeah.
It really
speck of dust in the universe.
It really is a speck of dust.
Yeah.
And I think that we can do a lot better. I think that kids can reach higher.
I agree with that.
Their society.
Yeah, and although the work that we do, I would definitely say you had a little bit of an overview of it, is comprehensive. There's always more work to do, and it's going to be a continued focus of education in Oceanside, and I hope nationally and internationally as well.
Do you think we'll ever eliminate hate altogether?
I in my heart, I'd love to believe that that something would spark our journey into the elimination of hate. It's hard to wrap your mind around what would that be. But as we continue to educate, the younger generation, which we're going to be turning all of this over to at some point, you just always hope that they can do better than us, and that's why we're in this game. That's why what the value of education really is. So we'll keep fostering these ideals in young people, and you hope that they will be the ones to maybe solve that issue.
Right. I think that this generation, Gen Z and Gen Alpha, I think they're very smart. I think they're very creative.
Yes.
They might come up with a better solution than us.
They're uniquely equipped to be change agents in the world like never before, with the accessibility of technology and tools and everything at their disposal.
Right.
I do think about the future promises and what might lie ahead.
Yes, I feel hopeful.
Yeah.
I find that there's certain things that unite people. For example, after 9/11, whether you were a Democrat, Republican, or a centrist, or independent, it didn't matter. Everybody united. So whenever we have a common enemy, I find that people unite. I also find that the arts unites people.
Yeah.
Like you could be in a concert, but everybody shares that same language. They all love the same things. So there's certain things we got to find. We have to focus more on things that bring us together than things that divide us. Yeah. And apparently the news and social media and the propaganda that's out there is so divisive.
Extreme, yeah.
It is extreme more than ever because of the platforms that we have that we never had before. You see, it took Hitler, as you know, 12 years to convince the German society that his party should be leading that country. It took him 12 years with his rhetoric, with his hate rhetoric. Today it can take minutes to sway people on social media. And that's the scary part. You advocate for experimentation in the classroom. What's an example of a risk that paid off and one that didn't, but still mattered?
I'd probably stray a little bit from our conversation about Holocaust education. But one of the things I'm regularly looking at when I explore curriculum is this curriculum engaging? Is it going to connect with students? Is it hopefully going to be impactful? Is it going to make a difference? Because ultimately, I would say the goal of education is transference, right? When a teacher is no longer in front of the room, can the kids take not necessarily even the content, but the skills they learn in there and apply it to other situations? So I guess one risk I'd share is some of the programs I brought into Oceanside, one of which was Big History. So New York State requires 4 years of history education, and it's usually 2 years of world history, U.S. history, and echo in government. So we brought a program in called Big History, which looks at history from the Big Bang, 13.8 billion years ago until today. Once we started doing that, understanding, we just talked about the speck of dust in the universe that we are, and kids can understand that, what processes brought them into the world. It's pretty amazing that we're all standing here today of how many things had to happen to bring us into the world. It's just a really engaging curriculum, and to change things around, people they don't like change. They like consistency, but I'm always looking to say, can we do things that are going to be engaging and meaningful to students? So I'd say some of the new curriculums maybe that brought into Oceanside and things like that. And in terms of risk, maybe that didn't go so well, I would say this. A specific example is not coming to mind. I'm sure there are many things that I've done that just didn't go well. But I would say that mindset of a growth mindset and taking risks and failure, it's part of the process of learning and growing. There has to be friction in education, right? AI today is making it so easy to take all of that out of it. But I guess the analogy I would use is if someone works out, they go into a gym, they lift weights, and part of that is the friction of lifting weights. If you went in there and drove a forklift in there, you can still lift the same weights, but you're not getting anything out of it. So with education, there has to be friction, there has to be productive struggle, kids have to be challenged. And I'm sure some of the things I've done maybe didn't go as well as I planned on paper, but I'd still go at it because you learn from your failures.
It's kind of like a light bulb, right? If the filament doesn't resist the electricity, it wouldn't be bright.
Yes.
And so that's that. But your metaphor is a very good one. It's so true about even exercise. If people don't exercise their common sense and their
have to practice doing
their thinking practice, sure, they're going to lose it for sure. We're depending too much on technology. I remember back in the day, we had to actually calculate numbers with I don't remember what that was. It was some kind of an instrument.
Yeah, it's escaping me too.
Right, there was an instrument, and then of course Texas Instrument came out with a calculator. So that made our lives a lot easier. So that was easy. That's a labor-saving device right there. And then maps, I had to learn how to read a map. And then GPS kind of took that kind of friction out of the formula. And today, we had to go to the library. Any piece of information that you needed, you had to run to the library.
I don't think kids would know what a card catalog is or microfiche. And,
right. But today you have all of this available to you, even us adults. I think we're going to be a smarter group of people. I think the technology is only assisting us in accessing the information much faster.
It's amazing that as we speak today, kids have, all of us actually, not just kids, have access to more information than any point in human history. It's our job as educators to say, this is a tool, how can we help you leverage that, right? Because I firmly believe AI will not replace us, but those who know how to use AI will. So we have to ensure our students have the exposure to this new technology and use it, going back to what we were talking about earlier, to become change agents, right? They can use it for good.
If every student left school with just one lesson from social studies and Holocaust education, what should it be and why?
I would say with regards to Holocaust education first. If students left with one lesson, I'd want them to know that they have a responsibility of being a citizen, fill in the blank of what country, anywhere in the world, of being a citizen, that we cannot stay silent when we see things in our world today that don't feel right. And that doesn't have to mean where you physically have to act. But if you see something, say something, speak to someone, tell someone, don't let it stay in silence, is really one of the important lessons of learning about the Holocaust, resistance, being an upstander, et cetera. In terms of education as a whole, I'd go back. I wouldn't say it's a singular skill, but I would say it is a skill set that we opened today's conversation with, about having a skill set that they can use to navigate their world. Historical thinking skills is at the heart of that. And really, we want to educate good people, right? So just fostering empathy, understanding others' lived experiences, and in doing so, I believe we'll create a better world.
Mitchell Bickman, thank you so much for joining me today. You are an incredible person, known as the superhero of social studies in the Oceanside School District. I'm grateful that you took the time today to spend some time here with me on this podcast and sharing your insightful wisdom from your experiences and talking about your students and your school and the things that you've learned from, the things that you do. And I want to thank my listening audience for joining me today on Ordinary Heroes here on hmTV at the Holocaust Memorial and Tolerance Center. I'm your host, Bernie Furshpan. Until next time.